we meet weekly at Remedy Cafe and talk in a very, informal atmosphere. But we had an aim. What we wanted to achieve was we felt we needed to reflect in our teaching practice what was happening in the industry, and to give our students the tools that they would need over the 5 years after leaving us. And we had a hunch about what this was. As Kevin Bakehurst at the BBC News said, social media is the latest tectonic plate to move and change the media landscape. So we had a hunch about what was going on. But we wanted to prove this, so we did a big literature review, and also we did research within newsrooms and also within universities in the UK and the US.
There you go.
Just tap. Yep.
Yeah. Tap the one you want to read.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Prezi? So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is Prezi, which I haven't used until today, so I thought I'd better get on with the bandwagon. But anyway, so we decided that we kind of needed to define what it is that we're doing, and so we put EJE because it wasn't something that was, kind of a common set of letters. And so it was basically enhancing journalism education. So when we defined that, we said, well, enhancing, which meant recruiting, harvesting IT hardware, iPhones, iPads, Mac, and so forth, and using applications and platforms like Storify, which Helen just suggested, Twitter, blog, Skype, which I'll go into in a bit more depth, and then sharing platforms like Google Docs, Google+, Google Hangout, which is a form of Skype, Facebook, which interestingly enough, even though I've tried to encourage students to use Google+, they default to Facebook because they still regard, even though we're trying to teach them professional skills, they regard the university as a social experience, not a professional one, and they aren't interested in going into things like Google+ until they've actually left here in this sort of work environment where they'd say, oh God, we'd never use Facebook for that sort of stuff. So that's kind of been an interesting observation. So that's what we define when we talk about enhancing. If I go to the next little thingy, what's it here? Okay, journalism, which obviously is untangling the complex publishing and archiving of contemporary society, which increasingly is being driven by social media, and also looking at the news media scape. So
Specialising in information technology, and actually, if I talk about myself a bit, I broke the restructure of telecom. I broke what Rob Dean was going. I've interviewed everybody from Bill Gates to Scott McNeely to blah, blah, blah. But at a very high level, I didn't know how to use this stuff. And if I make a small confession about today, some of the images that we are going to be looking at, because I learned how to create albums in the system today. So Helen invites me into the program, and I go, what am I going to do with this? I lead a couple of papers. One of them is Māori and Pacific Media Industries. And my immediate thought was, we've been talking about blogging, social media, Facebook. I'm going to get some of the work and shift it into that environment. And so I said to my two students, I want you to do Facebook, I want you to do blogging. And I had assumed that because one of the students was emailing me, that he knew all about this. But what I found out subsequent to that was that actually he would two-finger type the email editor, and then we took it from there. The things that I want to continue with now is obviously a lot more of this blogging, but not what I had for dinner blogging. It's got to be considered, thoughtful, and it must be evidence-based, because we live in this age of I think this, I think that. Well, that's fine. Save that for when you're hanging out with your mates. In an academic environment, this is the reason I am writing this. I think this because.